been widely reported that former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was working behind the scenes to ensure that AOC would lose this bid to chair the House Oversight Committee, which made me think of something that AOC had to say about Nancy Pelosi back in 2020 when she made an appearance on The View.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, once a fiery symbol of the progressive movement, is now facing backlash for what many see as a stunning betrayal of her roots. In her bid for a leadership role on the House Oversight Committee, AOC reportedly pledged to stop supporting primary challengers against Democratic incumbents, a move that contradicts the very mission that launched her political career with the Justice Democrats. Today, Anna Kasparian and Cenk Uygur break down why this decision has sparked outrage among progressives and what it means for the future of the movement she once championed.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez told her fellow Democrats that, she might stop supporting primary challengers to Democratic incumbents in her attempt to chair the House Oversight Committee. Now, the reporting comes from Politico, which cited 3 people familiar with her remarks. So how well did that strategy work out for her? Let's take a look.
I want to talk about this fight inside the Democratic Party between the old and the new guard over this key committee seat. It was settled today when Representative Jerry Connolly was voted the top Democrat on the Oversight Committee, beating out Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. The tally came down not particularly close, 131 to 84.
Oops. Now, it's worth noting that AOC won her seat in the House of Representatives by, challenging an incumbent Democrat. Okay, that was Joe Crowley, and this happened back in 2018. Again, this means that she won her seat in Congress by challenging a Democratic incumbent. That was the whole point of the Justice Democrats. So the idea that she was willing to concede to the Democratic establishment and say that she will no longer support primary challengers to Democratic incumbents is particularly rich and also very disgusting. But, maybe complying is how leaders lead, or maybe leaders lead without complying or bending to the will of the establishment that she was elected to fight in the first place.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I know what the point of the Just Democrats was. I helped found it and I named it, and we set the rules in the first place. And number one rule, only rule we had, was you can't take corporate PAC money because we didn't want them getting sucked into the corruption of Washington.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, once celebrated as a bold disruptor of the Democratic establishment, is now facing scrutiny for what many see as a strategic shift in her approach to party politics. Reports indicate that she is willing to halt her support for primary challengers to Democratic incumbents, a stance that was a cornerstone of her rise to power. This move is widely viewed as an effort to strengthen her bid for the chair of the House Oversight Committee, a highly influential position in legislative oversight. While securing the role could expand her influence within the party, the decision has sparked controversy, marking what some see as a departure from her insurgent roots. For many progressives, it raises pressing questions about whether her commitment to challenging the status quo has been set aside in favor of political advancement.
So in this case, I thought AOC would be good to replace Connolly, because Connolly's, I think, 74, she's 35. She's much better in media, much better in asking questions in these committee hearings, and this is oversight where we need someone strong and aggressive to actually serve that role. I thought she was a good fit for that role, so that made a lot of sense. But I didn't know that she was apparently telling, if Politico is right, that she's telling people, don't worry, I won't support any more challenges of incumbents. Well, that defeats the whole point. The point of Justice Democrats was to send in people to challenge those incumbents, to challenge the establishment, and to open the door for others so that more progressives and populists could go into Congress and we could actually topple the establishment and take over. The point wasn't to go inside and become part of the establishment and go up the ranks for your own benefit. Because if you say you're not going to challenge incumbents anymore, then there's no point. They have a massive lead in terms of the numbers of congressmen that they have. The establishment Democrats have 95% of the party. If you freeze it in place now, we will be a permanent minority. Why would you agree to that? Strategically, it makes no sense at all for the movement, but for your own career, it does make some sense. And because then all your colleagues are much nicer to you, you get along better with them, you make up pretty excuses about why you had to do it, you get a better position, allows you to run for a higher office one day, etc. But if this was about you, then it was a giant mistake. Because I don't care about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or any of the other Just Democrats on a personal level. I don't mean that in a mean way. Whenever I've interacted with them personally, I've liked them. We've got along great before weird things happened, right? But it's not my job to promote their egos or careers. I don't care about that. What I care about is passing bills. And we cannot pass these bills. And I thought we agreed when we challenged those Democratic incumbents together that we cannot pass those bills if we don't defeat the establishment. So why aren't they passing paid family leave? That's polling at 84%. If you actually fought on that, it would be so easy to win. I know that in Congress they tell you everything is impossible, don't ever fight back. But when you agree to not fight back, when you agree not to challenge your own colleagues, you're saying I'd rather be comfortable than effective. And that defeats the entire point.
Well, that comfort came in the form of AOC losing 131 to 84. And so, look, it's been widely reported that former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was working behind the scenes to ensure that AOC would lose this bid to chair the House Oversight Committee, which made me think of something that AOC had to say about Nancy Pelosi back in 2020 when she made an appearance on The View. If you don't know what I'm referring to, this is it.
I think there's a lot of incentive to blow up disagreements in the party as like huge fights, because I think it's important for us all to recognize, and we do this in our rallies, to recognize the people who have been in this fight to allow us to have this window as we do right now. You know, Nancy Pelosi, that's Mama Bear of the Democratic Party, you know.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's bid to chair the House Oversight Committee ended in a decisive defeat, with Representative Jerry Connolly securing the position by a vote of 131 to 84. Connolly, a 74-year-old incumbent currently undergoing treatment for esophageal cancer, was backed by establishment Democrats, including Nancy Pelosi, who reportedly worked behind the scenes to ensure his victory. Despite Connolly's health challenges, party leadership clearly prioritized loyalty to the establishment over generational change or energetic oversight. For AOC, this loss is more than just a missed opportunity for a leadership role. It raises deeper questions about the cost of her compromises in pursuit of that position. Her willingness to halt support for primary challengers to Democratic incumbents, a key principle that once defined her political rise, now stands in stark contrast to the outcome of this vote. AOC's decision to halt support for primary challengers to Democratic incumbents has sparked sharp criticism from progressives, who see it as a betrayal of the Justice Democrats' founding mission. The organization, which helped propel her to Congress, was built to challenge entrenched Democratic power structures by replacing incumbents with progressive candidates who reject corporate PAC money. Cenk Uygur and others have pointed out that abandoning this strategy effectively cements the dominance of establishment Democrats, leaving progressives in a permanent minority and unable to enact meaningful change. Critics argue that AOC's move appears more focused on advancing her personal career, securing smoother relationships with colleagues, and positioning herself for future leadership roles rather than fighting for the broader progressive agenda. They contend that this shift undermines the very movement she helped inspire, trading transformative potential for political expediency.
Well, according to Ken Klippenstein's reporting, Mama Bear whipped votes for the challenger to AOC to chair the House Oversight Committee by whipping votes, even as she was struggling with a hip replacement surgery following a fall that she suffered from. So we should point out that Pelosi's word is not necessarily law. So, for instance, an ally of AOC noted that another Pelosi-backed candidate, Representative Jim Costa from California, lost the steering vote to lead the Agriculture Committee on Monday, telling Axios Does it help or does it hurt to have Nancy Pelosi making calls for you? But when it came to the House Oversight Committee, Mama Bear did get her way. And so that's despite concerns over Connolly's age and health. And this part of the story, in my opinion, like blows my mind even more, Jake, because this is who Nancy Pelosi was rooting for. This is who Nancy Pelosi wants to have as chair of the House Oversight Committee. So Connolly's trademark vigor made headlines comfortable that he can take on the Trump administration despite his age and recent cancer diagnosis, multiple lawmakers told Axios. Okay, here's what the reality is. So Connolly disclosed on November 7th that he has cancer. It's esophageal cancer, which he's currently undergoing chemotherapy treatments for. Now, Ken Klippenstein spoke to medical experts who told him that the survival rate for this specific form of cancer is extremely low. Also, the chemotherapy treatments obviously are just brutal. And despite all this, one of Connolly's top allies, Representative Don Bayer, laughably argues, Jerry's a young 74, cancer notwithstanding.
Yeah, he's young and dynamic behind the scenes. He's young and dynamic in the hospital. Look, guys, I feel terrible for him. And these guys, you got to retire at some point. Take care of yourself, brother. We want you to be better. Of course we do. But while you're in the middle of chemo is probably not the best time to lead the Oversight Committee. So what that shows you is that the Pelosi's of the world are still bitter after all this time at the Justice Democrats. Like, they've crushed them already. Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush are out. Marie Newman's out. The rest have bowed their heads. But it's not enough. Mama Bear is still mauling them while they think Mama Bear is their friend. Right? So look, that appearance had three different problems in that tiny little clip that we showed you. She said, we don't need huge fights in the Democratic Party. No, you're totally wrong. We definitely need huge fights. In fact, when AOC was running against Joe Crowley was one of the top 4 Democrats in the House. And you know what they said? Why is he getting primaried? We don't need these huge fights in the Democratic Party.
Right.
And back then, when she was the beneficiary of that fight, she was all for it. And look, guys, this is not a recent thing. I know that fairly soon after she won and got into Congress, when other Justice Democrats, not me, went and talked to her and asked her to help primaries against incumbents, it was like pulling teeth. Instantly, like, whoa, but that's gonna get me shunned. Who cares? Who cares? What did you do? Did you think we were gonna do a polite revolution? And then if you asked politely of Mama Bear, she was gonna be like, oh yeah, my $1 billion in donors, I'll ignore them because you're so pleasant.
The broader dynamics within the Democratic Party reveal an entrenched establishment unwilling to cede control, as evidenced by Nancy Pelosi's behind-the-scenes efforts to block Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's bid for the House Oversight Committee chair. Even while recovering from surgery, Pelosi reportedly worked to rally support for Representative Jerry Connolly, ensuring his victory. This effort underscores the establishment's determination to protect its own, despite Connolly's significant health challenges, including ongoing chemotherapy for esophageal cancer. Critics argue that his selection reflects a prioritization of loyalty and party unity over the practical demands of the oversight role, where vigor and active engagement are essential. For progressives, this was a glaring missed opportunity to push their movement's agenda, one that highlights the ongoing struggle to break through entrenched party structures. On widely popular policies like paid family leave, which enjoys 84% public approval, Cenk Uygur argues that AOC's decision to compromise with the establishment in pursuit of a leadership position not only failed to achieve her goal, but also weakened the progressive cause. By avoiding direct confrontation, AOC and other Justice Democrats risk diluting their message and losing the momentum needed to challenge the status quo. The broader critique is that by seeking comfort within the establishment rather than pushing for transformative change, progressives risk making their movement ineffective at a time when bold action is most needed.